I'd like to welcome everyone to the Minden City Council regular session for Monday, December 6, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. We're going to start our opening prayer with Wayne Edwards and our pledge by Vincent Bradford. I'd like to ask everyone at this time to also silence your cell phones.
Dear Lord our Father, we ask that you guide this council through wisdom to make the right decision for this city and for this council. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda tonight is to adopt the council regular session meeting that was held on November 1st, 2021, and the council special session held on November 4th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Wayne Edwards.
Second.
Seconded by Michael Roy. Is there any discussion on that? There being no discussion, cast your vote, please. Motion passes. Item B on the agenda is the National Night Out recognition for the block party and the host in District A. We had St. Rest Baptist Church that was held at their annex building with an estimated 100 plus in attendance. 2 was Kay and Gerald McGuire, and they had about 40 people out there on Kerry Lane. In District B, there were no parties. In District C, Camilla Law, she had about 75 in attendance. In District D, there were no parties. In District E, Annabelle Walker, Donnie Irby, Teresa and Matt Little on Claiborne Street, and they had an estimated 80. We appreciate all those that did the parties and came out and the neighborhood celebrated, and we appreciate that. And those that are here tonight to accept their certificates, we'd like for you to come up front. And we'll ask that anyone from St. Rest come up first.
Okay.
Okay. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch and Parties is a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program entitled National Night Out. And the National Night Out provides a unique opportunity for the citizens of Minden, Louisiana to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police, community crime prevention efforts, and whereas the citizens of the city of Minden play a vital role in assisting the Minden Police Department through crime, drugs, violence prevention efforts at Minden, Louisiana, and supporting National Night Out locally, and whereas it is essential that all citizens of Minden be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and impact their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in Minden. And now, therefore, I, Gary L. Gardner, Mayor, City of Minden, and the Minden City Council do hereby upon call upon the citizens of Minden to go join with us in recognizing the 2021 National Night Out Block Party.
2, 1.
Thank you very much. Gerald and Jay McGuire. We'll get there soon. Camilla Law. We'll get her started. Miss Annabelle Walker, and she's not here. Matt and Teresa Little. Just Mr. and Mrs., but I only know you by Matt and Teresa. Let me read this. Ditto.
3, 2, 1.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, I forgot my glasses.
Item C is personnel, police officer reinstatement. This is to reinstate Anthony Miller to the police officer, Minden Police Department. Chief Cropper, would you like to speak on that, please, sir?
Good evening, everyone. Anthony, am I stepping up here? Approximately 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago, Anthony made the decision to move on to another agency. He applied with the Bienville Parish Sheriff's Office and was accepted as an employee. Anthony was real concerned about, he has some concerns about the budget being passed and his well-being and taking care of his family. Once he got over there, he actually worked for us about 2 years prior to that. Once he got to the Bienville Parish Sheriff's Office and our budget got passed, he you know, a lot of officers think the grass is a little bit greener on the other side of the pasture, and once he got over there, he realized he really liked Minden and wanted to come home. So he contacted me. He was brought before the local civil service board and was had a unanimous vote to reinstate Anthony. He's post-certified. He's got numerous law enforcement certifications, and I believe and actually got an 85%. He had to retake the civil service test to score an 85%. So he's very qualified, and Minden really needs him, and I'd appreciate y'all to help me bring him back.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move to accept the action of the Minden Fire and Police Civil Service Board and confirm the reinstatement of Anthony Miller as officer first class in the City of Minden Police Department.
Motion has been made by Wayne Edwards.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Roy. Is there any discussions or questions of Anthony? There being no questions, cast your vote, please. Welcome back.
Thank y'all.
Item C1 on your agenda is the Minden Planning Commission appeal. This is an appeal that MGM Development Group has requested. Mr. Jeff Glover, representing MGM Development Group, on property owned by Anti-Pest and Beach Incorporated, located at the municipal address of 711, 715, 719, 723 Germantown Road, for a zone variance from R1 single-family residential to R2 multifamily residential for the purpose of construction of a 50-unit gated senior citizens retirement center. This property is presently zoned as R1. Do I have a motion? Do I?
I'm sorry, do we have an opportunity to have discussion and make?
We've got to get a motion first.
No, you don't. Sorry.
Okay. Do I have a motion? I'm going to ask a third time. Do I have a motion? I have no motion, so what the Planning Commission has denied stands. Item D is to adopt the ordinance number 1123, curfew for juveniles.
I move to adopt ordinance 1123 and ordinance to amend and reenact of Chapter 34 Criminal Code, Article 8, offenses affecting minors, to add sections 34-267 through 34-273, curfew for juveniles, to the Code of Ordinance, City of Minden, State of Louisiana, as presented.
This is a motion made by Michael Roy,
Seconded?
seconded by Pam Bloxham. Is there any discussion? No discussion on these next three ordinances that we have. This is something that we've been working on for several months now. In one of our meetings, Mr. Edwards said that he would like community involvement, so I organized the SIP district, which is a safety incentive program, and got a leader from each of the districts and the chief of police and the fire chief to work on this, along with a group of high school students for my youth advisory board. And they've worked diligently on these three ordinances for several times, and it is my request that we need to adopt these first two ordinances for sure, because this has to deal with our youth and the safety of our youth, and to keep our youth well and keep them, get their parents to hold them accountable for keeping them home. So do we have any more discussions on that? We have a motion made.
Mike, did you want to say anything before we vote about this ordinance
Ms. McKinney.
with the children? Yeah. Because you worked on this.
This is Mike Harper, District E.
Yeah, I live on Drake Drive, Mike Harper, and I did, and it was kind of eye-opening, and a new rule or a new law is automatically resist, I guess. I don't know why, but just do. But also am very unhappy when children are shot or beaten or whatever happens in the middle of the night, when in my opinion they need to be home. But anyway, a lot of thought and effort went into it, a lot of compromise, a lot of trying to accommodate objections raised by city council people and also police people and other citizens involved. So we tried to craft something that we thought, while not ideal, at least is a step in the right direction to get kids off the street at night when the trouble happens, the majority of it. So anyway, I ask you to consider that. A lot of effort went into it, and while not perfect, it's, I think, a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Yes, ma'am.
All three ordinance, can I get up for F?
When we get there, yes, ma'am, you sure can.
Okay, could you put all of them together?
No, ma'am. The one we're doing right now is curfew just for the juveniles. I was just making reference to the three.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, could I say,
Name,
my name's Officer Smith. I'm an officer first class with the Minden Police Department. I'm chairman of the Minden Civil Service Board and president of the Minden Police Association. So along with the Safety Initiative Program, the city attorney, the city judge, and obviously the Safety Initiative Program, we've worked tirelessly on a piece of legislation that will help lower juvenile and gang-related activity that's plaguing our city streets. To put it in perspective, it's been about 24 hours since the last teenager was shot in Minden. This curfew will give police officers the tools they need to help prevent juveniles from committing or being a victim of violent or destructive crime. Will this act solve the whole problem? No, but it's the first step and an immediate short-term and low-cost solution to a very long-term problem that's plaguing our city. This ordinance allows for multiple exemptions to be out past curfew, to include emergencies, sports, church, or other positive activities. Other municipalities and parishes such as Shreveport, Bossier, and Caddo have recently implemented these laws with similar verbiage, and they've had great success. I've personally spoken to several parents, juveniles, teachers, and Webster Parish School Board administrators, and they are overwhelmingly in favor of this curfew. I ask you please vote yes on this and give us the tools we need to prevent the next murder of an innocent child and allow our city court to hold the parent accountable for their child's whereabouts. That's all I got.
yes, sir, if you'll give us your name and your district, please, sir.
Dennis Miles, District E. I'm going to ask the council not to go with that curfew. It's my thinking, the person that was shot on Wood Street, was there a juvenile?
He was 18.
The curfew, 17 and under. the stabbing at the high school, daylight hours. I have yet to hear any facts of the crime that happens from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. I hadn't heard any statistics. I hear that we got a juvenile problem. I say we got a juvenile agency here in town to handle. It's a duplication of services. I say children and families from the state, it's a duplication of services. This curfew is an invasion of privacy. How are you going to ascertain who's 17 and under? You're going to be stopping everybody that looks like they're 17 and under. It gives you a reason. No laws are being broken. You see somebody after 10 p.m. and you think that they're 17 or under, you're going to stop them, ask them for ID, where you been, where you going, what's in your pockets. It's all an invasion of privacy. And I wish somebody would tell me, for instance, Chief, how much crime was done last month between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m.?
Probably 90%.
Juveniles.
No, I'm not saying.
Well, this is what this law is targeting, juveniles. And I'm saying, this is not Shreveport, this is Mendon. If I'm driving a car after 12 p.m. in Mendon, I'm suspicious. I don't have to be a juvenile. That's anybody. During those hours, you are suspicious if you're out in the community. So you're going to be able to stop anybody during those hours and ascertain that's what they're doing. But you're saying that this curfew, which is 17
Mr. Miles, you're past your 3
and under.
minutes.
Oh, you didn't give him one. Come on now.
I gave everybody 3 minutes.
He had longer than 3 minutes.
I'm going to ask the council not to vote for this. I think enough laws are in place. I think we have enough agencies in place to handle this juvenile situation. Thank you.
Do we have any more comments?
I have a question for Jimbo.
Yes, sir.
Jimbo, you're in the court system, correct? Yeah. What's the percentage of juveniles, in your opinion, that you've seen come through that are under the age of 18 years old committing crimes? Do you have any ideas? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just curious.
I can't give you an exact number. I can tell you this, the amount of juveniles committing violent crimes are up. Now, to Mr. Miles's point, I can't give you exact times of day or anything.
Right.
But the amount of violent crimes committed by juveniles and crimes period are definitely up over the last year and a half. And I think you start splitting hairs when you go, oh, he's 18, 19, because a lot of these violent crime offenders are repeaters. They just, when you have a history of violent crime, you tend to repeat. So we get them at 16, we get them at 17, we get them at 18, until eventually someone gets seriously hurt or killed. But it's definitely up, I would say, just from my perspective. I don't have any statistics back to that.
Would you see violence is up because of the guns? Everybody's got guns.
I don't think.
Curfews ain't gonna curb that. Everybody's got guns. So it's obvious to me, everybody's got guns. So you're gonna see an increase in violence.
I would say violence is up, period, whether it be guns, knives, whatever. Just violent crimes and juveniles is up.
Thank you, Jimbo. Is there a comment from anyone?
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of like stuck in the middle on this ordinance, but what I will say is that I would like to see our police department fully staffed so that you can provide services in areas where we had repeated crimes. Most of the time, you don't have enough staff available to respond to the calls. We had a call the other night in Deerfield, and there was some confusion because she had didn't have enough staff on duty. I think you had something that in the high school area, and we need to respond to another location. We didn't get there. Now, one of the worst things I think we can ever do is put an ordinance procedure in place that we cannot afford to enforce. There are a lot of rules on the book that if we enforce them, it would require more staff. I would like to see you have a larger staff so that those areas with repeated crime, you can be there. And if you take a look at what's been occurring, and I think last month, he said District 8 had 61 incidents. And so be it. Most of that occurred in the same area. And if we had patrols available for those areas, no doubt in my mind that would decrease some of it. And there are a lot of other things that we probably could be doing as far as the police department is that we see wrong. If we stop some of these speeders going through the neighborhoods, we know what kind of traffic we get for is liquor and drugs, and they were simply putting liquor back into the city. I see liquor bottles everywhere, and you can't make me believe that some of these problems we have is not being contributed by alcohol. There's a lot of other things that would need to be done. I want you to have a larger staff.
Are there any comments?
Chief, I have a question. The individuals that you arrested with the other agencies here not long ago in the gang, what were the average age, would you say?
Probably 15 to 18 or 19.
Okay.
There was 4 or 5 in that group that were juveniles that have none of the juveniles have actually been arrested. They fled the city and fled the state.
Okay. The only other thing I'd like to point out is that when we sat down in all these workshops to work on this, the mayor had asked a group of the teenagers to come in from the high school, and I say that was probably 20 to 25 maybe, if I'm not mistaken. And I think, if I remember correctly, every one of them wanted this ordinance. Every teenager in that room wanted this ordinance.
And none of them wanted beer in the parks either, because that was a question to them as well. None of them wanted alcohol on any city properties.
I have a question with the ordinance. Could y'all just hold the parents more responsible and make them parent their kids?
That's what
That's
part
what
of this,
this
that's
does.
what
We
this,
have that, like Mr. Miles said, it's being duplicated, it's a duplicate, so.
we don't. We don't have that. And the police department can answer. That's why they're asking for this. They have no legality.
I get there's no legal, and I'm for it as far as, I mean, if it'll change things, definite, but I don't know if it's gonna change things. So why can't we, okay, if y'all arrest a 14-year-old for doing something that's, now, sometimes parents can't help it, their wild kid does, but why can't you hold the parent accountable? I mean, is that something that can be done with or without the ordinance, since it's a juvenile kid?
Well, that's all left up to the judge, but most of the time, the judge doesn't hold the parent responsible. If a juvenile goes out and commits a crime, that juvenile is the one that pays the price, not the parent.
So then how is the ordinance gonna work?
The ordinance is set up to,
The judge still
if we, and it's not, and I know Mr. Miles thinks we're going to stop everybody that looks like they're 17 years or younger. We don't have the time to do that.
Right.
It's designed to, when we've got kids out at a party, kids out on the street, and we find out that they're underage, we can either get them home, call their parents, and there's a sequence in there that, the first offense, we're gonna get them home. The second time we catch them out after the curfew, then they may have to come to court. And it's not designed to target young people at all. It's just like Jason can tell you a story about 2 9-year-olds. He had a call where shots were fired. He was en route to the call. There's 2 9-year-olds out at 2 o'clock in the morning riding their bicycles to where the shooting was. And he has no authority to tell those kids to go home.
Gotcha.
in the city minute, because there's no ordinance that allows us to do that.
Yes, ma'am. If you'll come up to the microphone and tell us your name and the district you live in, please.
Jocelyn Hardy, and B as in Bravo. I think I got it right this time.
Yes.
I just returned here from being gone 30 years, and as a single mom raising two young men that are now 31 and 27, if it wasn't for the Boys and Girls Club that my kids were with forever, and in the aviation program, I support police, but you guys can't do it all yourself, so I still haven't heard anyone mention, and I know I heard Brother Miles say something about dual services, but besides the police, are you having the churches have support groups, youth groups in the afternoons? Are you doing youth basketball? We used to have midnight basketball. What other services are you talking about besides just having them at home? Because I remember working 2 and 3 jobs when I was a single mom. So, good mom, raised my boys well, but when I was at work, they gonna do what they gonna do, you know? So a parent or parents, you can't, be over them 24 hours a day, but what other services? Just like the stabbing that happened at Minden High School, when I talked to a couple of my friends, I asked them, did the counselors do a grief group with the children, and nobody could tell me what happened, any counselors? I still don't know.
There's a lot of after-school activities for children at the schools. Most of the churches in town, a lot of the larger churches, City on the Hill, First Baptist, St. Rest, churches like that have programs for youth and youth programs. I asked Ms. Walker about a month and a half ago? To ask her to start a committee to put a Boys and Girls Club together. So she should be working on that and getting back with me on something.
Okay.
So, we're trying to get that direction, but a lot of it is, we've been pushing this down the road for several months and working on it for several months. And, there's got to be some good in it because other cities around us have put it into effect. And the ordinance is not a tool that gives the police officers the ability to harass young people. It gives them a tool to say, hey, why are you out? Let us put you in the back of our car and take you home. Because a lot of times they'll climb out the back window and the parents are home in bed asleep.
Right.
So, it just gives them something to sink their teeth into, not to harass or bother, but to keep our children safe because, your 8 and 9-year-olds, they're at that age, they can go this way or they can go that way. So we're trying to help them go the straight way.
So did Bolger and Shreveport also add other services with support of the police, though? That's the main question that I have.
Mayor, I have something. Ma'am, also at the Minden Recreation Center, there are all type of ball programs out there for the youth.
What if I can't get out there and I don't have a ride? That's what I'm trying to get everybody to see.
Well, what I was going to finish saying is that the Minden Rec was really hit hard last year through COVID because, of course, no one wanted to participate, nor could, and they're really building their programs back. So it may be if they could get into carpooling with some of the neighborhood children, that would be a facility that could fill some of their void time.
One thing I'm going to throw out there that I would like to see happen is the city, the school board, the parish, maybe a leader from the churches come together in a workshop and try to, because this is only part of the tool to fix the problem. We can't make parents tend to their children, and that's where it starts. But I think it's going to take several pieces to this puzzle to help do something. And that's where I think if we can sit down, and try to put some programs together to help these youth that are without, and get them to some of these facilities that we have, that can, whether it be Boys and Girls Club, whatever, so that's one thing we need to sit down and look at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments from the audience? Okay. Well, with that said, if you would cast your votes, please. Oh, I'm sorry. No? Okay. Okay. Okay, the ordinance fails. Okay, next on the agenda is to adopt ordinance 1124, use of parks and city-owned property in special events where security control or traffic control are necessary.
I move to adopt ordinance 1124, an ordinance to amend and reenact Chapter 78, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places, Article 1, in general, to add Section 78-5, use of parks and city-owned property for gatherings, meetings, parades, etc., and Section 78-6, special events where security control or traffic control are necessary, to the Code of Ordinances, City of Minden, State of Louisiana, as presented.
Okay, this motion has been made by Michael Roy,
Seconded?
seconded by Pam Bloxham. Is there any discussion? Yes, sir, come up and tell us your name and district. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Timer.
Dennis Miles, District E, of course. So we instituting this ordinance. Why are we instituting it? I mean, what are we trying to control? Crowds or
No, sir.
destruction of public property, or what's the reason that we need this?
Yes, sir, I was going to explain that. What we're trying to control is, we have the city and the taxpayers, they have a lot of money invested in our parks, whether it be Victory Park, High Street Park, Academy Park, Ewell Park, or whatever. And when they go out there and have these gatherings, we don't know where they came from. We don't know who's responsible or in charge. And then after the gathering's over with, they've done donuts and drag racing all over our facilities and tear up our lawns, just like they did in Victory Park this past weekend before last. They tear the urinals off the floors, the ceiling tiles out, tear the sinks off the wall, we fix them, and then the same thing happens the next weekend. So what we're trying to do is save the taxpayers money where we can control and hold the person accountable for the destruction that's happened. When they'll come and get their permit, we know what time to open the bathrooms for them, we know what time to close the bathrooms for them, and that type of thing. And it also lets the police officers know that something's going on down there so that we can help keep everybody safe that's down there. So that's whether it's down there, over there, wherever the case may be, is we want everybody to be safe in our parks.
So what number will this kick in at? What number, 25, 50? 75 people?
You're asking me a number for?
What the number of
Of
people?
people?
25.
25 and higher.
25 and higher?
Yes, sir.
My suggestion, Mayor, Council, for the destruction of city property, don't open the bathrooms.
We don't now.
Okay,
But when
open
they
the
are
bathrooms.
open,
Okay,
they get torn up.
don't open the bathrooms, and as far as, I think 25 is a little low. Maybe around 50. Once you get to 50 people, something like that, you're going to need a permit, and then that way you're going to have somebody being responsible. But just 25 people, I mean, 2 football teams? I mean, two baseball teams?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They still need a bathroom.
Well, if you're going to use a public park, once you get to that number, though, you need to have somebody that's responsible, that's going to take out the permit. And then that way, we're going to have somebody that's going to be responsible for any damage, anything that goes on at the park. But I do think 25 is a little low. And I do understand once you get a big crowd, because sometimes crowds just happen.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Do we have any more comments or questions?
So even if this ordinance is in place, surely, I mean, we know that they're not doing these things, doing donuts during the daytime, or they're doing it over in the night. How are we gonna know? Like, oh, we gonna put cameras over there? I mean, we have to have something else in place. Just putting this ordinance in place is not going to do.
with the ordinance, when they buy the permit, we know what conditions the fields are in. We know what conditions our parking lots are in. We know what condition our grounds are in. We know what conditions our bathrooms are in. So when the party's over and everything's torn up and not left like they found it, we know who to hold accountable.
Okay, so what if it happens after the party is over? Then the people that took out the permit, they're not responsible for it. It could happen after the fact. So is someone going to go
Well,
at the
when
end of the event?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
inspect the
ma'am.
restrooms, inspect the grounds and
Yes,
all of
ma'am.
that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are going to protect our citizens, our taxpayers' investment. Absolutely. Do we have any other questions or discussion? Are you moving to say something? Or okay, come on up and tell us your name and the district you live in.
I'm Mike Aguilar. I'm the Assistant Parks and Rec Director for the City of Minden.
So we can hear you.
I live in District E. We have seen, since I've been here for 3 years, constant vandalism at the city parks. It's the playgrounds, it's the water parks. People rip wires out. That's very expensive for the city. We've had to replace dirt at Ewell Park because people did donuts there. Now they've done it at Victory Park. We don't know when it's happening. We go up there, we monitor, we lock the bathrooms. We have locked the bathrooms in the evening, and we open them in the morning. We have since locked the bathrooms, and it's hard for me when we have Babs Park, especially during ball season, to have a couple of teams out there scrimmaging, and we're not allowed to open the bathrooms for the kids. They play there. That's what we want, is people coming to our city, out-of-town teams. We want teams practicing at our various parks, soccer, football, baseball. We have basketball courts there. It's very hard to work for the city knowing that our own citizens are vandalizing what they want, what they need. We want nice things for our facilities, and yet our own citizens destroy them. We don't know. It's at every park. It's not just one. It's not this town side. It's not the other side. It's across the board. We work very hard to improve our parks for the past 3 years. And the only other thing we're trying to do is, like Ms. Walker said, is implement some cameras out there. I think it's not right that we have to open and lock or keep bathrooms locked for kids on a Saturday afternoon to go out there and use the park. Take your pick, especially during the summertime when the water parks are going, but yet because of ruthless vandalism, we have to lock them. And it's to a point where it's not even worth having the water parks open, a nice thing for the kids in our community, because people vandalize it. Spray paint them, break the nozzles, dig them up, break the lights. So it's, at what point is enough is enough? I mean, is it to the point where we have to take down all the nice things we have at our city parks? I don't think so. And I think our citizens, most of them, use it in good faith and have a good time. We have no problem if we get called or they rent the facility or let us know that there's an event, of making every effort to clean it and make sure everything's in working order for them. That's our job. That's what we do, and we love our job. So I would just ask the citizens, it's not about curfews. We offer many events and many programs at the rec. 11 o'clock, most of our events are over unless we have a tournament at the rec. And everybody will know that it's going on because it's advertised. But other than that, I don't know what happens between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. But
Okay, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, you said 25, attendance of 25 or more. So I see Mr. Walker in the audience. So if he does prayer in the park, then he has to secure a permit for prayer in the park and pay for off-duty officers, correct? If they have a bike giveaway at Academy Park again, that's more than 25 people in attendance. This says that they have to have a police officer there, and they have to secure a permit. You mentioned the teams going to Babs Park scrimmaging. If you have 2 teams, that's more than 25 people, so they need a off-duty officer there, and they need to secure a permit. That's what this says. Now,
Okay. You were in the workshop, so I'm glad you read
I
that.
just want people to understand what's in here and how it affects them.
It keeps everybody safe.
Okay, all right.
Do we have any other comments? There being no other comments, if you'll cast your vote, please. Okay, motion fails. Item F on the agenda is to adopt ordinance number 1125, an ordinance to amend and reenact Chapter 22, Buildings and Buildings Regulation to Article on Vacant Structures. Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 1125, an ordinance to amend and reenact Chapter 22, Buildings and Building Regulations to add Article 12, Vacant Structures of the Code of Ordinances, City of Minden, State of Louisiana, as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Michael Roy, I'm sorry, motion made by Pam Blocks and seconded by Michael Roy. Is there any discussion? If you'll give us your name and your district you live in, please, ma'am.
Lisa McKinley, District D. I just got the new proposal. I still, again, I'm asking y'all to not vote this in. Y'all gonna have to explain some of it because I was trying to read it, but on section 22-310, where it says number 8, so like our building, since it's vacant and it's full of machines, we can't use it as a storage building for our personal stuff? Am I reading that right?
No, you can store things in there. It's your building.
But would that consider it not being a vacant?
Your building has got materials and everything in it. Your building's for sale. Your grass is cut. Your building is presentable. Your building is not one we're even closely looking at.
And we've talked about this before, but in
Many
writing,
times.
it says city limit to city limit, so therefore I am very concerned because if it comes up and it's going to go, well, Ms. McKinley, it's right here in writing, you should have read it. Well, I've read it multiple times, and I've talked to y'all multiple times about this, because again, I still see where we're going to have in this section 22-312, we have all these registration fees, and it looks like it's every 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so every 6 months, whether we get it sold or not, in the time we're trying to get rid of our land because we feel forced to do it, we have to pay this registration every 6 months
I believe that's the way it reads.
for the duration of, until we get rid of it?
I believe that's the way it reads.
I'm asking y'all not to. I mean, this is like costing the property owners, like I said, you're not after me, but I still have to keep putting money out every 6 months. On the insurance, I did get insurance on our building. I could not get this much because my building is vacant. I was explaining the reason you can get the insurance you get is because you are doing something to the buildings that you previously owned, so you have like a different coverage, because I did go to your insurance agent, and that's where I got mine. I couldn't get near this much.
Which agent was that?
Wimberley.
No, my insurance is at State Farm.
Oh, well, you told me to go to Wimberley because you had yours covered under Wimberley, so that's where I went.
Roma's is under Wimberley.
Do what?
Roma's is under Wimberley. My Imperial that we're remodeling is insured with State Farm.
Okay, well, again, I couldn't get $1 million. I think that's crazy. I mean, nobody's going to insure a vacant building with nobody in it. Also, I was told by the insurance company, do not put a vacant building sign on it, and do not put a map of the building, because all that's doing is telling somebody the building is vacant, and here's where you go to get whatever you want from whatever of the building. So I will not be putting a vacant building on.
Thank you, Ms. McKinley, we appreciate it.
I'm going to ask, can I continue since
No, ma'am.
this is long?
It's a 3-minute limit.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Please, y'all
Is there
vote
any other
no. I beg y'all to
comments, or-
vote no.
Is there any other comments from
I
anyone?
have one. I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
one. This ordinance that we brought back from one of our LMA meetings, West Monroe implemented it, and they've had tremendous success with it. And if you've noticed on local news that I believe Shreveport has, if they haven't adopted it, they have it on their docket too, because everybody is trying to deal with blighted properties. Now, Ms. McKinley's property is not a blighted property, and it would not be considered on this. But we're talking about facilities that are giving Minden a bad image.
Let me tell you something. This is another ordinance that we've been working on for several months and had several committees and people from the community working on. This ordinance is already doing its job. If all of you get around Minden a lot, you'll notice the O. Harper Motors building. It is not owned by Mike Harper. Let me make that perfectly clear. The owner's out of town. He has cleaned up that building tremendously. It's not an eyesore downtown, and he's actively trying to sell it. The bank up here on the corner, since we started this ordinance, it's for sale. East property on East Union by the old Joe's Dixie Cream, all that property's been cleaned up. Some other properties on East Union have been cleaned up. So the ordinance is already doing its job. We're just asking the council to enforce the ordinance so we can continue to move our city forward with economic development, so we can bring more businesses to town. And when that toaster company comes and looks around, our town will be clean, and we can attract new business. That's what we're asking the council to do, is approve this so we can move our city forward and have a clean, safe city. Do we have any other questions or discussions from the audience about this?
My concern is, when you make a comment to Ms. McKinney that it's not your property that we're looking at, you can't do that. What goes for one person, it goes for everyone. And you open the city up to a lawsuit when you publicly say it's not, Ms. McKinney, it's not your property that we're looking at. But it's some other. No, but that's subjective. You can't just say, I'm going to target this property, but if she's not meeting the criteria that's in here for this ordinance, then she falls under the same category in the consequences.
Okay, listen to me, Ms. Walker. I didn't mention one property we're targeting. What I told Ms. McKinley is we're not looking at her property. Her property is, the grass is mowed, the building's presentable, she's got it for sale, she's got it insured. If the roof was falling down and the wall was caving in, yeah, we'd be probably looking at it, but it's not.
Ms. McKinney, have you met all the criteria?
Pardon me?
I don't have $1 million policy.
I understand, but you've got something that you're comfortable with. You've got something that you're comfortable with, okay. Are there any other comments or questions?
I'm just going to say one thing, that not only in this ordinance, there are variances, if I'm using the correct word, that can be given. So if her property is not in the shape that addresses, then the inspector can give that variance. So to me, we've got to clean up our city, not only in the business districts, but we've got to keep our neighborhoods cleaned up. We have a law on the books to where we can get Brent. I get calls day in and day out about cleaning up someone's yard. I mean, we've got to have a law on the books to be able to have that cleaned up. Without that law, we can't do anything. Same as the vacant Jeep on the street. If there weren't a law in place, we couldn't give that to the chief to handle. So, I mean, we've got to have some kind of structure.
But I think y'all are forcing people to sell property with this. Like, yeah, ours is mowed and all that, but we honestly feel pressure to sell it. Now, with all that being said, we also well, we feel pressure to have to sell something that my husband's grown up in. And, you know, he had thought about piddling down there, but now he doesn't want to do that. He just wants to get rid of it because of the way everything's worded. And, you know, we've had beer bottles and wine bottles all over our property long before that came into Minden. I mean, they would get it from Dixie and come, walk through there and throw it, and we have to constantly clean it up. So, I mean,
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other comments? Cast your vote, please. Motion fails.
thank y'all very much.
G on your agenda is to adopt a resolution establishing fees for the collection and disposal of garbage and refuge in the city of Minden. We've recently gone through the process and signed a contract with Republic Services on trash rates. The trash rates will be going up so we can cover the cost of our sanitation charges. Since y'all don't have that in front of you, I'll tell you what they're going to be. The residential is $17. I believe that stays where it's at, Mr. Fleur. The apartment is $15.50, and the businesses are $25. And when I say businesses downtown, they have a blue cart just like you have at the house, and they have to actually jump out and get it and drag it to the truck and dump it and things like that, so that's why theirs is a little higher. Could I have a motion on that, please?
I move to adopt a resolution establishing fees for the collection and disposal of garbage and refuse pursuant to Section 17-4 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Minden, State of Louisiana, as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made by Wayne Edwards. It's seconded by Ms. Walker. Is there any discussion on that or questions? There being no discussion or question, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Item H on your agenda is to adopt the resolution, the Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Program. This is something that we go through every year. So do I have a motion from the council?
I move to adopt the resolution for municipal water pollution prevention as presented.
Motion made by Ms. Walker,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Bradford. Is there any discussions or questions on that? There being no discussions or questions, if you'll cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Item I on your agenda is to adopt a resolution authorizing the City of Minden to join with the State of Louisiana as a participant in the Louisiana State Local Government Opioid Litigation Memorandum of Understanding. Do I have a motion on that?
So move.
Motion made by Michael Roy,
Seconded.
seconded by Pam Bloxham. Are there any questions?
Just one. Should we receive funding from this, what would we do with the money?
Go into the general fund.
The general fund?
Yes, sir.
No, that's not right.
No, back up.
Now, the litigation settlement agreement has stipulations as to what the municipality can do with it, but it's a lawsuit that's already been settled. So what happens, the way the settlement is between the state of Louisiana and the opioid companies, is that if 100% of all the qualified municipalities, which goes by population, participate, then they get 100% of the total settlement agreement. But if only 90% participate, then it goes from 100% of the money agreed upon down to 70% and staggers down. The money comes with restrictions to what the city can use it for, primarily used for like drug education programs for students. You know, DARE type stuff, not necessarily DARE specifically, but those type deals. We can't use it to repave roads or anything, but it does allow us to have money to do those type programs, which frees up those funds that we would allocate towards that to be able to put to roads or whatever. But it's already been settled. It's a lawsuit that just requires now us to say, hey, we're participating, and then once it gets settled, then we'll receive those funds and be able to use them for whatever the memorandum specifies.
So to go into
Do you have that
the
in
general
writing?
fund with stipulations.
I'm sorry?
It'll go in the general fund with stipulations.
Yes, sir, yeah, and the memorandum that was provided to y'all should have all of it.
Yeah.
But it's a multi-district lawsuit, it's a big class action thing, it's been on for a long time. And once, the one with the state of Louisiana just requires municipalities to have a resolution saying, hey, we want to participate. It's already a done lawsuit, we just got a sign saying we want to be a part of the fund distribution.
Thank you, Jimbo. Is there any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Come up and tell us your name and district again, please, ma'am.
Jonathan Hardy, District B. Are you able to use that funding in some of the trouble areas where you have had the highest shootings with the youth?
It's not necessarily an area specific, but it's definitely something that we would have resources to potentially start programs, or fund programs in part to specific age demographics, different things, primarily for drug education, drug prevention, things of that nature.
AKA Boys and Girls Club?
It could be, I'm not sure specifically. I would hope so. I actually was in the Boys and Girls Club growing up, and I would love to see that revitalized and rebooted. I just don't know if the restrictions specifically would disqualify that or not.
How can we find out?
It would be in the memorandum, and if it's not addressed specifically, I would have to inquire with the attorneys who did it, but it definitely would provide funding for the city for some type of program that we could do for our young people to do drug prevention and stuff. But it's
And resources for
literally
parents,
intact.
yeah, resources for parents that may need help and support in the afternoon when they're at work.
I would hope so. I just don't have the answers to those specifics. I just know that it comes with a lot of stipulations that, as far as using it towards drug prevention and those type deals, because it is a lawsuit that revolved around drug abuse.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have those specifics.
We'll get those once, if we get any money, correct, Jimbo?
Yeah, it'll come with the guidelines and all that. The way it goes is a percentage. So if $100 is the total amount that's given to the state of Louisiana, we would get 0.01% or whatever the metrics is for our population and be given that distribution.
Okay.
Obviously, it's like $800 million or something total, but whatever.
Being no other discussion, if you'll cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Item J on your agenda is an intergovernmental agreement with the Webster Parish Sheriffs for inmate labor for litter abatement. This is a program that is designed to, they will work once a month on our main highways and thoroughfares and the interstate exits to keep all of our debris and everything picked up off of the streets. They'll be supervised by a deputy, and they'll do this 4 times a month. Are there any questions?
You're gonna do this 4 times a month or once?
4 times a month. I think I failed to ask for a motion. Could I have a motion, please?
I move to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Webster Parish Sheriff's Office for inmate labor for litter abatement and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement as presented.
Motion been made by Michael Roy,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Wayne Edwards. Now we can have a discussion, Mr. Bradford. I'm sorry.
No, I was just looking at where they say a minimum of 4 inmates.
Yes, it's 4 inmates, and it's 4 times.
All right, but then at the bottom it says that, they don't have 4 inmates,
That they'll adjust the amount that we're paying them.
so it can't be a minimum of 4. They don't have 4.
No, I mean, if they don't have 4, we won't be paying for 4. I believe the dollar amount's in there,
How
Mr.
you got it? Over.
Mr. Fleur, would you help me on how we wrote this out? It's right here. It's, if a deputy and inmate worker are not available or allowed to report to work, $62.50 for each worker less 4 will be deducted. So like for one day, if they don't show up, we'll be deducting the $62.50 for that day. And then if 4, the other 3 times will, be paid.
Well, if the 4 don't show up at all,
Oh, they don't show up at all, yeah.
then it is $250 credit.
Right.
If they are showing up with 3, then we're going to give a credit of $62.50
Per man?
per man, which is $62.50 times 4, I believe, is $250.
Yes, sir.
That's how we came to this deal.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Bradford?
Not really.
Do we have any
I
other?
mean, that's still not, when the first sentence says each the deputy with a minimum of 4. I mean, it should say 4 more, or, I mean, if he doesn't have 4, he's not supposed to come, right?
No,
Well, that's what it said.
he can come with 3, but we're going to make a deduction because he doesn't have the
Well,
4th
the
one.
minimum should be 2 or 3, not 4.
Mr. Bradford,
Minimum means the less he can come with, right? Is that the word? I mean, as I'm interpreting this word, right? Minimum means the fewest that he can come with.
Mr. Bradford,
Is that right? First, if somebody answer that,
That's right.
what does minimum mean?
Minimum means minimum, and the sheriff will make every effort to come with minimum 4 inmates. If for some reason he is unable to provide 4, the city does not have to pay for the 4th or the 3rd or the 2nd or the 1st man.
I understand that.
That is the sense behind how it is set up. But the sheriff will make every effort to provide at least 4. So I don't see any discrepancy how it's written here.
are there any more questions?
Well, I mean, I'm in agreement with Mr. Bradford. If it says each day the deputy with a minimum of 4, then maybe it should be a minimum of 2, up to 4. But as
If he
it's
just shows
printed
up-
right here, it says a minimum of 4.
If he just shows up with 1, a deputy and 1 guy picking up trash, we're only going to pay for 1 guy. But if the world was perfect, and we realize it's not, they're going to be there with 4 times a month.
In writing,
It's in writing right there.
it says minimum of 4. That's what it says in writing.
Okay. Are there any other discussions or questions?
But Chief, the car washing for the police department, is that done by prisoners?
It's done by trustee, yes.
What kind of agreement do you have with the sheriff department now to where we're gonna pay them $1,000? What kind of agreement do you have to get the cars going?
Sheriff Department furnishes us a trustee to do the janitorial stuff. Like he mops and sweeps, takes out trash, washes cars. Used to at one point in time before we went to lease vehicles, we actually tried to get one with a little bit of mechanic knowledge behind them so they could actually change the oil in the vehicles, but we've kind of gotten away with that. But it's just there's not a written agreement. They just supply us with one trustee.
So you don't have- you don't
Just
have-
tell him that big salary you pay him.
I don't pay him anything.
That's what I'm saying, okay.
Yeah. Part of the reason we're paying,
But he's not, and I'm not sure what, this is the first I've heard of this thing. The sheriff may be using work release inmates, which are paid, where my gentleman that comes every day is a trustee. He's not in work release. He doesn't qualify to be work release yet, so he's just like a trustee.
You just have one?
he's got, and his police officers and whoever's on duty oversee him. In this particular case, they will be accompanied by a deputy that's paid. They'll have a trailer, and they'll have a truck, and that type of thing. There'll be no more questions. If you'll cast your vote, please. Motion passes. Item K on the agenda is to authorize to advertise for bids for one backyard track unit with a pole dolly. I believe, for those that are here, let me explain to you what a pole dolly is that you don't know. Everybody knows what a sky lift is. It runs around, it raises up in the air. This thing has riggers on it, which it puts its arms out, so if we have to come in your yard, Okay, I'll shut up. If it has to come in your backyard to replace a transformer, or like on Claiborne Street or something like that where the poles are behind the house, we can get in there. It lessens the labor and the safety of our guys having to climb a pole or something like this. This is something that we've needed for years. So, does anybody have any motion?
I move to authorize the city clerk.
To advertise for bid for one backyard track unit with a pole dollar as presented.
Motion is made by Mr. Bradford, it's seconded by Ms. Bloxham. Is there any discussion or questions? There being none, cast your vote. Whoa, okay. Motion passes unanimously. Item L is your budget and financial report for October 2021, and our acting city clerk, Mr. Michael Fleur, will present the budget and financial report for the month of October.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This afternoon, we provided the summary report for all funds for the month of October. It was provided for you to review the figures. And let me apologize right away for being late. But as you have been aware, we have completely new crew in the accounting section, and the employees need to get familiar with how the city of Minden operates. We are in the progress of getting better from day to day, and we are working on the month of November already to be functional like you usually get it around the 15th, so you have enough time to go through the calculation. What you see in the report on the last page, you see a favorable variance. That's because in the water and electric fund, in the second line, you're going to see a tremendous amount, and that is the result of the 2.2 millions we received on October the 2nd, I believe it was. 2.189 million out of the American Rescue Plan. The money is still sitting in the water and electric fund, and at the moment it's really hard to decide what to do with the money, because we have received notice on one of our savings. The interest rate has dropped again from 0.3% to 0.12%. So if you're going to talk to the bankers at the moment, they are full with cash money. The mayor and myself, we participated, I think it was last week, in a meeting. The invitation came to B1 Bank, and they've been working on a model which would provide higher interest rates without speculating. We are not allowed as a municipality to speculate with the money, but they, so they say, have found a way to at least give us some information how we can or could get higher rates for our investments. So we are waiting on the invitation. There probably will be a presentation done to individual entities. Participants were the city of Minden, there was the sheriff's department, there was the school board, I believe.
Police
So-
jury.
So we have multiple entities looking into this because everybody is seeing the interest rates going down south. So, of course, we said we are interested at least to listen what could be done. There are no risks involved for the city of Minden because it is the similar way done like we do it right now. So we are waiting on that. But the interest rates at the bank at the moment, or at the banks at the moment in general, is going south. The banks are full with cash money. So, yes.
Would LMA have any help in getting us more interest on these dollars, or is that?
Well, LMA has not made any moves at the moment, but Mr. Bird, who was inviting from B1 Bank, even said that the interest rates are double from LMA. So why not at least listen to what they have to say?
Right.
So, some good news, sales tax figures for the month of October, including the TIF districts, the collection, the total collection, 591,111. Previous year, 537,981. And the budgeted amount is 560,000. So we are above the budgeted amount at the moment. I talked to Mrs. Harrington from the Webster Parish Sales Tax Commission. She gives credit for the increase in higher sales, including vehicle. The auto market supposed to have influence on that number. I also believe that part of that is the inflation rate, which brings the increase in the sales tax. So the majority is probably increase in sales, but people are still spending money at the moment. So you should know if the sales is up. Not at your place?
Well, Mr. Roy could probably do a lot better. Cindy said that the cause for the increase in sales tax were automobiles. I don't see any automobiles sitting on any lots. I mean,
So
I don't see how that's so, because
well, he sells them when they roll off the truck, so.
you may been at the wrong company at the moment.
Mr. Mike, they're picking.
Be careful who you're sitting by over there.
Okay, what else we have? We have the cash report. At the end of the month October, actual cash in the bank, 10.6 million. Investments and savings, 8.8 million. Total of $19.4 million. Previous months was 17.1. Please remember the 2.189 million. So the difference is easy to explain. Previous year, we had 18.7 million. That's related to, I believe, the SWEPCO bills. We still see every month a little bit higher than what it usually is or was. So, one more figure I want to give you before I close. STEP program, probably everybody is interested. Overall collection in the month of October, 7,400. November, 5,600. So the program lacks manpower. That's simply the answer to that. If you have the manpower, the program is providing money, so to speak. The funds would come in. The city has recovered its expenses, and it's time to spread the rest out to the other entities, other different agencies. That's all what I have. I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, and hopefully we see each other in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleur. Item M on your agenda is your police report. Chief Cropper, will you come up and give us that, please, sir?
Thank y'all. Okay, the month of October, we collected $6,824 in city fines. $60 went to crime lab, $62 went to city court, $60 to the marshal's office, $90 to the indigent defender's office, $4 to the clerk's fund, $15 to the Ware Center, $4 to the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement, $23 to the off-duty witness fees, $6 to the court case management information system, $10 to the Louisiana Traumatic Head and Spinal Cord Injury Trust Fund, $20 to the Judicial Fund, or Judicial Building Fund, and $1 to the Judicial Education Fund, totaling $7,179.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept Chief Cropper's financial report?
So move.
Second. Motion made by Wayne Edwards, seconded by Michael Roy. Do we have any questions of the chief? There being no questions, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. Would you give us your oil report, Chief?
Got a few things. During the month of November, we actually worked 45 vehicle accidents. We had 553 calls for service. Out of those 553 calls for service, we generated 111 incident reports. We arrested 27 persons, wrote 42 citations. There were 66 warrants issued. 23 of those warrants were served. And during the month of November, we wrote 22 step tickets and actually collected 20. 16 of them were the standard fine, and 4 of those 20 were late and had an additional fee tacked onto their fine, original fine. And that's basically all I have. I wanted to welcome back Anthony Miller. I'm excited to get him back. He was a good officer, and he's going to be an asset to the department. And if we can just get the numbers up, we can get this program working like it's supposed to. And that's all I have.
How many officers do you have now, Chief?
Oh, that's a good question. It fluctuates so much. I think it's like 27.
I think you're 5 down. I think.
Like that.
I have to look at it daily.
Lost one since the last council meeting. We hired 3 and lost one real quick.
Yeah.
So 27 or 28, something like that. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, Merry Christmas to y'all. Y'all have a
Thank you.
great
Same to
holiday
you.
season.
Next on the agenda is item N, and it's our annual fire report from our Captain Kip Morad.
Chief.
Chief, I'm sorry, did I say Captain? Chief, forgive me. If my house catches on fire, please come.
Good evening. I get, every one of y'all have a little booklet with the report. The first page is the main of the page I'll go over. From December 2020 to November 2021. Inside the city, we had 267 alarms. Outside, 52, a total of 319. Fire drills were 49. The total for that is 368. Rescue calls inside the city were 38. Rescue calls outside the city, 55. 3 water rescues, total of 93. And then 55 non-emergency runs, 55, so it's a total of 516 calls. The volunteer firefighter training hours were 766, and the full-time firefighter training hours is 4,865, total of 5,631 hours. Total number of fire prevention students are 423, and that's not right. I was looking through the book a while ago, and there's, for some reason, I didn't even put Glenbrook in here. So we went to Glenbrook, and I don't know exactly how many kids it was there, but so it's more than the 423. And the smoke detector distributed was 23, but I listed on the back, and not the back, but one of the back pages, the smoke detectors that were given out, and that goes back to 2019 up till this time, which was a total of 79. And the rest of the pages break down the different types of fires and, what they are, and, the different things and that I just went over. And the last page is I'm asking for $20 a call for the volunteers, which is the same as last year. It's not going up anymore, higher than that. And I'm asking y'all to approve that, to pay the volunteers. It's already in the budget, so I would appreciate y'all to pass that. Any questions?
Chief, where were those 3 water rescues, where were they at? I'm just curious.
I'm trying to think. We went to right up off of, Sykes Ferry was one, but I can't think. It's off of Germantown Road.
It wasn't like Turner's Pond or just a little?
No. This was the 2 young men from, I think it was Homer, in a swimming hole. There's a place up there. People go swimming on the road, and 2 young men had drowned in it. Sykes Ferry and the Caney Lake was the year before, where there was 2 young men drowned in Caney. That was in 20. I'd have to look it up. I just really don't remember.
And you have about 21 volunteers?
Yes, sir. Well,
How many spots do you have available for volunteers? Are you still looking for volunteers?
I've tried to keep 20 to 25.
Yes, sir.
And I've put on several in this year.
Good. Do we have any questions of the fire chief?
Motion.
Okay, so we need a motion made.
I move to approve the annual fire report as presented and to approve payment to the volunteer firemen in the amount of $20 per call, as well as other money that's allocated in the report.
Motion made by Wayne Edwards, and I heard Ms. Walker first, so I'm going to say that she seconded it. Is there any more questions from the chief? There being no questions, cast your vote, please. Motion passes unanimously. We appreciate the work that your guys do, and we appreciate your volunteers.
I appreciate y'all, and y'all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kip.
Okay, now we're going to move to public comments. When you come up to the microphone, if you'll give us your name and the nature of your business, and if you can keep it to 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Jeff Glover. I am the partner in MGM Development Group that is proposed the retirement villas of Minden on Germantown Road. I want to, we're very excited about the $10 million development that would have a $5 million economic impact in this city that would promote the welfare and the health of citizens of Minden. Because no council member mentioned and made a motion to overturn the Planning Commission decision, we request on the record the objective, factual basis for the Planning Commission's denial for rezoning. Because in the meeting itself, there were no real issues brought up other than we do not like this location. But when you look at the zoning decision itself, it was inconsistent with zoning decisions made in adjacent areas. So there was no legal basis in terms of the consistency of the zoning. We request a copy of the minutes of that meeting in particular. And there were people in the room that afterwards said, hey, this was a bad decision that was inconsistent with zoning that's adjacent to us on either side. The public interest arguments were never denied and never addressed. We would like to know legally what the public interest arguments were that would deny this benefit for the town of Minden. So basically, how many of you received the letter from our attorney, Charles Harold, that was sent to the city council and the mayor and to Jimbo Yoakum last night? How many of you received that letter?
I didn't get it last night, but I got it today.
Okay. And how many of you had an opportunity to review that with council and make your decision and come up with the policy and make a decision on how you're going to handle that before this meeting? Okay, well, I would like the letter, for the record, entered into these minutes. Dear Mayor, City Council, Planning Commission, and Council, my client, MGM Development Group, holds an option to purchase property belonging to Anti-Pest and Veach, Inc. at 711, 715, 719, and 723 Germantown Road in Minden. We plan to acquire and develop a gated retirement community on the property to serve Louisiana and to serve Minden. It plans to acquire and develop the property to serve senior citizens. The property is currently zoned R1, and on December 2nd, the Minden Planning Commission denied its request to rezone it to R5 multifamily residential to facilitate this project moving forward. This was an astonishing decision considering the numerous productive discussions about the public interest benefits of the development of this gated retirement community designed to serve senior citizens, in particular disabled senior citizens. There's no question that this development is in the best interest of the community. And so when you look at it...
Mr. Glover?
Mr. Meredith, would you please come finish this? I'm right here.
My name is Bryn Meredith. I'm a partner, construction partner with MGM. The Planning Commission's denial of this rezoning request is blatantly inconsistent with its past rezoning and adjacent properties R1 to R5. The property on both sides of the parcel in the question have been rezoned for multifamily use and developed specifically for senior citizens. Savannah Court, an assisted living facility, is on one side of the PUD, planned urban, for seniors is on the other side. It is noteworthy that the PUD was developed by Councilwoman Pam Bloxham, who attended the December 2nd, 2021 Planning Committee meeting and has boldly expressed her opposition to the rezoning for this project. This double standard of rezoning for her development, but not for others, is inconsistent with the council's fiduciary obligation to set personal interests aside and do what is best for the city. Considering her past PUD development for seniors next door and the divisive nature of her inquisition in the terms of my client's agreement with Anti-Pest and Veach Incorporated, she is a potential business competitor and has a clear conflict of interest. Further, this project designed for the senior citizens is subject to the Fair Housing Act and American with Disabilities, which strongly prohibit discrimination. This is relevant to the Councilwoman Bloxham
recently reported on social media as making racist comments, which raised concern about bias and discrimination as a basis for her opposition to rezoning. Regardless, she obviously has a conflict of interest and should be recused from participating in the City Council's decision and vote on this issue to avoid any hint of impropriety. Given that the surrounding properties are all zoned multifamily and serve senior citizens, the Planning Commission made a glaring inconsistent decision. This project is consistent with the other developments for senior citizens next door located on Germantown Road. Therefore, there is no reasonable basis to deny zoning for this project. As such, my client is actively publicizing to the community an opportunity that will be lost if rezoning is not approved for this location tomorrow night. My client is unable to change the locations, and the council is aware of this. Further, if rezoning is denied, it will cause a great monetary loss to my client, Anti-Pest, and Veach Incorporated, and expose the city and its leaderships to unnecessary liability, which is easily avoided. Based on past zoning practices on adjacent and nearby properties, the city's legal standing is tenuous at best, and my client's position is quite strong. No objective basis has been cited upon which to deny this rezoning. My client has provided extensive detailed information to the Planning Commission, including all the information requested and then some. On December the 2nd, Jeff Glover was publicly admonished for exceeding 1.1 hours explaining the details to the Commission's benefit. To say my client has not provided all relevant material information to the Commission would be disingenuous. Finally, my client implores you to prioritize the long-term best interest of the community to vote to rezone the property to R5 for this important, worthwhile project while avoiding any more further controversy for the city and its leadership in this matter. This development will bring $10 million into a modern senior housing to Minden.
Thank you, sir.
It will create additional jobs in the community and contribute $5 million estimated to benefit debt.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you'll come up and give us your name and the district that you live in, please, ma'am.
Susie Johnson in District E. First of all, I'd like to let the council know that Ms. Bloxham made no such racist comments. They are interpreting that to their advantage. She made no such comments. Second of all, some of the things in that letter are not true. Ms. Bloxham's development is not a senior citizen development. My parents moved into a house in 2007 in her development. Next door to her, to my parents, was a couple about 30 years old, or their late 30s. It's not, nowhere does it say it's a senior citizen development. There's a lot of inconsistencies in it. At the Planning Commission meeting, listening to an hour-and-a-half dissertation from Mr. Glover, and followed by input from the property owners, they could not give a substantive answer to any question. We questioned the amount of money for the rent. He gave some ridiculous figure of $600 or $700 a month. Considering the amount of money invested, it would take $1,800 a month to profit. They're not doing it for charity. There are a lot of inconsistencies in that letter. And regarding the Planning Commission listened to all of the property owners who were there, myself included. All of us voiced our objection to it because we could not get a definitive answer from Mr. Glover or Mr. Meredith about anything we asked. They had no budget lined up. They didn't have the figures correct. They couldn't explain the discrepancy in the rent. They were just basically flying by the seat of their pants at the Planning Commission meeting. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to listen to all the input and make an informed decision, which they did. The purpose of the City Council is to hear the appeal. I don't know Mr. Edwards personally. I don't know Ms. Williams, but I do know Mr. Bradford. He's a fair-minded person. He's well-informed. He's capable of making a decision, just like everybody else is. But there are a lot of things in that letter from that lawyer that are not correct. And I just want to make y'all aware of it.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Do we have any other discussions or comments from the audience? Yes, sir. Give us your name and district again.
Mike Harper, I live on Drake Drive in District E. I never owned Harper Motors downtown, but it was a blight in 1982, for those of you that remember. And as of 2018, I have no ownership in the current Harper Motors. That aside, I just wanted to share with you a citizen's input into the proposed curfew that failed, and also the deal with the number of people at the parks and stuff. At our last workshop, we had, previous workshops, we always had good discussion and input from Ms. Bloxham, Mr. Roy, and Mr. Edwards. The last workshop, which was early last month, I believe, all the council members were there. And we had virtually no input from Ms. Walker and Mr. Bradford. And I was a little frustrated because I had the sense that they were opposed to it and were going to vote against it. So finally, when I pointed out, this is the third time I've asked for your input on this deal. What do you like? What do you don't like? Is there any way you can support it? Ms. Walker said, I'd like more information. And Mr. Bradford said, what district do you live in? We're not voting on anything today. Let's move on. So I just want to share the frustration that I know many of the other council members have felt, and the mayor. We're trying to do something to move the city in a positive direction. And anyone want to share my personal opinion of that?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Do we have any other comments from the audience? There being no other comments, we're going to move to council comments, and we're going to start with Mr. Edwards.
For District A, we still in the process of completing applications for the sewer grant. And if my numbers are correct, we need about 20 more applications. For the next 2 weekends, I'll probably be knocking on your door in District A. The other one, I'd just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Ms. Walker?
I would like to wish everyone a happy holidays and a happy new year.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Bradford?
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. Mr. Roy?
First off, I'd like to thank everyone who participated in National Night Out. I hope that we continue to have that and more will turn out next year. So I do appreciate those efforts. One thing that I brought up in a council workshop when we visited on these ordinance, and I want the taxpayers to be aware of this ordinance, is that in 2017, the council and mayor voted on an ordinance to arbitrarily increase water rates based off of the CPI. Your water rates just increased by 5.6% in October, November. I think that's unfair to the taxpayers. I think that if we need to go up on water rates, then we should bring it to the public and explain why that we're doing that, not arbitrarily. You know, I understand there may be a point when we're in the negative. Jeff is brought some information, put some information together for us to review. So I'm going to bring this back to the council, and I'll keep bringing it as long as I can to rectify that, because I don't think it's fair to the people in this city to go up arbitrarily.
On that, isn't the sewer going up 1 year, the water going up 1 year, so it's like they get us on the water 1 year, then the sewer the next, water, sewer, is that how it goes?
No, it runs parallel.
It goes up.
The previous administration made it run parallel.
Okay.
That's correct. So I will continue to press that issue with the mayor and the rest of the council. One thing that I want to talk about is Mr. Glover gave his speech. Let me point out a few things that I feel like I have to defend myself in this instance, because several months ago he came to me, and I know some of the other council members, and sat down with a 2-page idea. And after an hour's conversation or so, I asked him for more information. He gave me no plans. He gave me no site plans. He gave me no restrictions, no anything. So up until the Planning Commission meeting, I still did not have any of that information that I had been requesting from him. So listening to his presentation, doing some investigative research, that company has only been in existence for about 2 years, since 1999. They have 4 projects, not one, 2019, excuse me. So they have 4 projects in the work in almost 3 years. Not one of them has a frame on it, not one project. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about somebody coming in and not doing what they say they're going to do. I think that's part of our job as a council person. And the final straw that broke the camel's back for me is that on Friday, he called several times, and I finally got to return his phone call, and we had a discussion. He still did not have the information to give me to make an informed decision on that piece of property. After that conversation, I had a phone call from another individual where he had asked me and he had asked Pam Bloxham to commit malfeasance in office. He literally asked me and her not to attend this meeting. That's a felony. I am not about to commit a felony, and I sure don't want to do business with someone who wants me to. I take this position very seriously, and if the people in my district don't want me there, then they can put me out. You know, that's okay with me. I'm going to try to do what's right for this city no matter what. And by no means will I ever do something dishonest for this city. Not going to happen. I'd rather not be here if that's the case. With that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. And Ms. Bloxham.
And last but not least, so based on the last speaker prior to Susie, I feel that I have a comment to read to you. To the citizens of Minden, I realize Mr. Glover's proposed subdivision of 25 duplexes for the elderly and handicapped sounds like a great addition to Minden. However, there are issues that are cause for concern by many of my constituents. Every community deserves to know what they're getting into, and I believe there are several key issues. There appears to be a lack of financial transparency with this company. For example, there's no construction budget. There's no 10-year pro forma report. There are no actual numbers on taxes to be paid to the city of Minden. Gene Corley asked, he didn't answer. There has been no proven experience from this company. A big lack of integrity. We have experienced threats, lies, and personal slander from Mr. Glover. No dimensions or square footage were on the proposed plans, nor was there a site drawing. Prior to the Planning Commission meeting, Marilyn Miller, Sue Gruber, and I drove to all 3 of his existing sites. We went to Alexandria, we went to Bastrop, and we went to West Monroe. All 3 of the sites that they are building on are in depressed parts of town. Not one of the sites that has lumber and dirt work has anything. I can't even attest that there was a slab there. They're moving dirt and they're moving equipment from one side to the other. So to elaborate on the lack of integrity, I too was asked by Jeff Glover not to attend tonight's meeting in order to save face to my constituents so that if I weren't here, that he would have his 3 votes to overturn the planning committee, because in this particular case, it requires 4 votes to overturn. In my conversation with him, when I did ask him about how much he was paying to Veach. I did that because Friday morning, the mayor and I started talking about alternate sites, because if the Planning Commission agreed with the neighboring landowners that it was not going to go on Germantown Road, can we at least find a place in Minden where that we can put this facility if it is going to be a win-win for Minden? But I know now that he did not want to talk to me about alternate locations, because with getting this application for government money, it requires that the location be in an affluent area of our city. That's not Shreveport Road, that's not Louisville Road, that's Germantown Road. So I'm here to tell you tonight that this is not about the elderly, as he said, and this is not about the handicapped. It's about three partners lining their pockets at the expense of Minden's citizens. So that is why I fought desperately for my constituents that this is not going to happen on Germantown Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bloxham. I'm going to share some information with y'all about things that are going on in Minden for the next couple of weeks, things that you can do with your family, things that you can do with your parents, and so forth. On Friday, we have tractor pull hay rides through our historic district for children and young women. That's sponsored by the Young Women's Service Club. It's free. There's no charge. The hot chocolate, if you want a cup of hot chocolate, is $1. And they'll have caroling and things like that going on throughout the districts while the hay ride's going on. Starting on Saturday, December the 11th. They're going to have brunch at Go Fresh with photos for the kids and grandkids with Miss Claus. They're going to have hot chocolate at the Broken Bean. They're going to have storefront window decorating contest from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Main Street. They're going to have the mistletoe tree decorating contest at the Minden Medical Center Pavilion. You already see some trees going up down there. They're having a s'mores bar at Wimberley Agency across the street where you roast s'mores and a fire. They're going to have story time, music, and games with Miss Claus and Santa and Miss Claus, and that's going to be at the Webster Parish Library, and they're going to have some book readings and things like that. North Pole for the children's area, it's going to be at the Civic Center where they're going to have bouncy houses, pony rides, and things like that for your children and grandchildren. This is all free. Kids ornaments, crafting, and face painting will be done at City Artworks, which is downtown on Main Street as well. And at 5 o'clock, everybody knows that Minden loves a good parade, so we're going to have a parade through downtown Minden, and then at 7 p.m. we're going to have a tree lighting ceremony in front of the Civic Center at our I think it's our 3rd annual Christmas tree lighting. A lot of things going on in Minden. Minden is beautiful during the Christmas season, so ride around and look at the lights. I would also like to inform everybody that tomorrow they're going to start some smoke tests in our sewer lines. So if you see smoke coming up from some of the sewer caps, everybody got it in the districts that it's in. I think it's mostly in A and B. You might see some smoke come out of your sewer lines, maybe something come out of your commode, I don't know. But don't panic, because it's supposed to be going on. I would also like to kind of echo what Mr. Edwards said about the sewer grant. This is a $1.3 million sewer grant for District A and B, and I appreciate Mr. Edwards' help and Ms. Bloxham help and Wanda helped and Kathy Newer's help, and me and Tyler have been walking on Sunday afternoons, and we've been walking up to dark 30. And we just got a few more signatures required, so we think we're going to get that grant for this area. And everybody we have talked to in that area has been very accommodating, and they've signed it. We got a little slow on one day because we had to watch a football game with several people when they invited us in their house, but we appreciate their hospitality, and I've really enjoyed walking out there. I'd also like to welcome Anthony Miller back on the force. Anthony, in my personal life, he worked for me when he was 15 years old up to he started his police job, and we appreciate Anthony, and we appreciate all of our first responders, our police department and our fire department. And last Friday, I had the opportunity to ride with Jason Smith for 4 or 5 hours, and noticed his professionalism and how he handled different people when we had to pull them over, who was running a stop sign or weaving down the highway or whatever. I've never seen so many buttons in a car in my life that you have to push this button to pull this gun out and mash this button. I mean, no, not me. But I appreciate our first responders. You know, it's not if we need them, it's when we need them. So thank you, and Jason, I appreciate the opportunity to ride with you. I see Bonnie sitting over there with a smile on her face. She was riding with, Joel. She was riding with Joel, and so I think she enjoyed herself too. After the tree lighting ceremony, we're going to have a big firework display. Fiberbond sponsoring that, and we appreciate them doing that. But also, there's going to be fireworks for sale in our city. So when your children or grandchildren, even adults, be sure when you're lighting a firework, you know what the firework does. Give yourself plenty of time to get over it. If it's in a leafy area and it's dry, please don't do it there, because you know it could start a fire. That's about all I've got to say. This has been a very exciting year for Minden. We've got a lot going on in our city. We've still got new jobs. We've still got businesses fixing to open that we can make announcement hopefully pretty soon. But one of the most exciting things that we have is HGTV. HGTV is going to put Minden on the map, and if any of you know what that did for Laurel, Mississippi, we're hoping it's going to do the same thing for Minden. And you noticed the other day also Sarah McDaniel made an announcement where she's fixing to rehab some bungalows, and that's several magazines are helping her do that, Bungalow and HGTV magazine. So, you know, the thing about it is any attention, any positive attention that we can bring to Minden is good for our city. And that's why it's important that we keep our city clean and we all work together as an entire community. And I want to wish everybody in Minden a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if there's anything that I can do for any of you at any time, please don't hesitate to come see me. Meeting adjourned. Gotta go past 3 minutes? I'm telling you. Gotta go past 3 minutes.